Second Ashara has begun. The doors of forgiveness are open. But while you are begging Allah for mercy, your spouse may still be waiting for yours. What if the very forgiveness you sit or asking from Allah this Ramadan is the same forgiveness your marriage is starving for? What if saving your relationship does not require therapy, money, or grand gestures, but one sincere sentence, "I forgive you"? Tonight, this message is not just about Ramadan. It is about your home, your heart, your nikah, your akira. And what if I told you that one act of forgiveness in these 10 days could transform your marriage into Jannah on earth? Let's begin. The second Ashara of Ramadan is not just a phase in the calendar, it is a divine invitation. These are the days of Maghfirah, when the mercy that softened your heart in the first 10 days now deepens into forgiveness. Across the world, millions raise their hands in the darkness of night, whispering Astaghfirullah with trembling lips, hoping that Allah will erase sins no one else knows about. We long for a clean record, a purified heart, and a fresh beginning with our Creator. But while we are desperately asking Allah to forgive us, there may be someone sleeping beside us who is silently hoping for the same forgiveness from us. This is where many marriages quietly begin to crack. A husband stands in Taraweeh, humbled and tearful, yet still carries resentment toward his wife for something she said months ago. A wife recites Quran with devotion, yet inside her heart lives a list of old mistakes she has never truly let go of. We expect Allah to wipe away our past completely, but we hold our spouse's past tightly in our fists. We want divine mercy in the heavens while withholding basic mercy in our own living room. The truth is that the second Ashara is not only about your private relationship with Allah, it is also about how that relationship transforms the way you treat those closest to you. If Ramadan is not changing the atmosphere inside your home, then something is missing. The purpose of fasting is not hunger alone, it is humility. It is to make you aware of your own weaknesses so you stop magnifying the weaknesses of others. When you feel your own fragility, it becomes easier to forgive the fragility of your spouse. Think about how often we replay arguments in our minds. We remember the tone, the words, the facial expressions. We relive moments of disappointment as if preserving them protects us from future hurt. But in reality, holding on to those memories only hardens the heart, and a hardened heart cannot fully taste the sweetness of Ramadan. The Quran softens hearts that are open, not hearts guarded by pride. Allah forgives sins greater than the mountains and deeper than the oceans. He forgives repeated mistakes, hidden mistakes, embarrassing mistakes. He forgives even when the servant returns to the same sin again and again, as long as there is sincere repentance. If this is how your Lord treats you, then how can you refuse to forgive a human being who is also weak, also learning, also struggling? Your spouse is not perfect because you are not perfect. Marriage was never meant to be a union of flawless people. It is a partnership between two imperfect souls trying to reach Jannah together. When you hold on to grudges, you are not punishing them alone. You are punishing the marriage. You are starving it of the oxygen it needs to survive. Forgiveness is that oxygen. Without it, love suffocates slowly. During these days of Maghfirah, ask yourself a difficult question. If Allah were to treat you the way you treat your spouse, would you survive? If He reminded you daily of your past mistakes, if He withheld mercy until you proved you deserved it, if He exposed your flaws the way you expose theirs in arguments, where would you stand? This reflection alone is powerful enough to humble even the strongest ego. The second Ashara is your opportunity to reset the emotional climate of your home. Instead of counting your spouse's faults, begin counting the times Allah has covered yours. Instead of saying, "You hurt me," consider also saying, "I know I have hurt you too." Instead of demanding perfection, choose compassion, because compassion is what transforms a house into a sanctuary. Forgiveness does not erase memory, but it removes the poison from it. It allows you to remember without resentment, to move forward without dragging yesterday into tomorrow. When you forgive sincerely for the sake of Allah, you are not excusing wrongdoing, you are choosing peace over ego. And peace inside a marriage is not accidental. It is built deliberately, often through uncomfortable humility. These 10 days are precious. They will pass quickly, and we will all stand before Allah, hoping our sins were forgiven. Imagine entering the last 10 nights with a heart completely free of resentment toward your spouse. Imagine making dua together without hidden bitterness between you. Imagine breaking your fast at the same table, not just sharing food, but sharing mercy. The Ashara of Forgiveness begins with you, not with a lecture to your spouse, not with conditions, not with "I'll forgive if they apologize first." It begins when you make a quiet decision in your heart that your marriage is more valuable than your pride, that your unity is more important than proving a point, that pleasing Allah is greater than winning arguments. If you truly want Maghfirah from the heavens, let it descend into your home first. Let it soften your tone. Let it change your reactions. Let it guide your words. Because sometimes the difference between a broken marriage and a blessed one is not love, it is forgiveness. And the second Ashara has given you the perfect moment to choose it. There is something dangerous about unresolved pain in a marriage. It rarely explodes all at once. It does not always scream or slam doors. Sometimes it simply settles into the corners of the heart and waits. It waits during conversations. It waits during silence. It waits during suho, when you sit across from each other but feel miles apart. And slowly, without you realizing it, that hidden resentment begins to shape the way you see your spouse. You no longer see them as the person you once chose with hope and excitement. You begin to see them through the lens of their worst mistake. Every new disagreement is filtered through old wounds. A simple misunderstanding suddenly carries the weight of 5 past arguments. Words that were neutral begin to sound offensive. Intentions that were innocent begin to feel suspicious. And you convince yourself that you are just being careful, when in reality you are being guarded. Ramadan exposes this clearly. Shaitan is chained, yet tension still exists in many homes. That means the real enemy is not outside. It is inside. It is pride. It is ego. It is the refusal to release the past, because holding on to it feels like control. Sometimes we hold grudges not because we enjoy pain, but because we fear vulnerability. If we forgive, we feel exposed. If we let go, we fear being hurt again. So we build walls and call them protection. But walls do not only keep pain out, they also keep love from fully entering. The second Ashara is a reminder that forgiveness is not weakness, it is liberation. When you forgive your spouse, you are not saying their mistake was acceptable. You are saying your peace matters more than replaying it forever. You are saying your marriage deserves a future that is not chained to the past. You are saying that Allah's pleasure is more important than your ego's satisfaction. Think deeply about this. How many times has Allah forgiven you for the same weakness, the same impatience, the same temper, the same poor decision? And yet you wake up every morning with air in your lungs and blessings in your life. If Allah dealt with you strictly according to justice, you would be overwhelmed, but He deals with you in mercy. So why do you insist on strict justice inside your marriage instead of mercy? Grudges distort reality. They make you exaggerate your spouse's flaws and minimize their efforts. They make you forget the late nights they worked, the silent sacrifices they made, the prayers they whispered for you when you were not aware. You begin to focus only on what they did wrong, instead of the countless things they did right, and that imbalance slowly kills gratitude. A marriage cannot survive long without gratitude. Just as fasting teaches you to appreciate food and water, Ramadan teaches you to appreciate the people Allah placed in your life. Your spouse is not random. They are part of your test and your provision. If you constantly focus on their mistakes, you will never taste the sweetness of what Allah gave you. Let me ask you something honestly. If your spouse passed away tomorrow, would the grudge you are holding still matter? Would the argument from 2 years ago still feel worth the distance it created? Or would you wish you had forgiven sooner, spoken softer, embraced longer? Death has a way of exposing what truly matters. Ramadan is a rehearsal for that awareness. It reminds you that life is temporary and that hearts should not be burdened with unnecessary resentment. Holding on to anger also damages you internally. It affects your mood, your energy, even your ibadah. You stand in prayer but your heart feels heavy. You make du'bada but something blocks your tears. Sometimes the barrier between you and spiritual sweetness is not a major sin, it is unresolved bitterness. When you cleanse your heart of grudges, you make space for tranquility, and tranquility is a gift that no argument can provide. Forgiveness requires courage because it demands humility. It asks you to admit that you too are flawed. It invites you to see your spouse not as an opponent, but as a fellow traveler on the road to Jannah. Both of you are stumbling. Both of you are learning. Both of you are trying. During these sacred days of Maghfirah, do not only repeat Astaghfirullah with your tongue, let it transform your reactions. When a disagreement arises, pause. Remember how desperately you want Allah to overlook your shortcomings, then overlook theirs. When your spouse apologizes imperfectly, accept it graciously. When they make an effort, acknowledge it. These small acts of mercy build a mountain of stability. Your marriage does not need perfection to survive. It needs softness. It needs two people willing to prioritize peace over pride. It needs forgiveness that is not conditional or temporary, but sincere and intentional for the sake of Allah. If you truly want your home to feel like Jannah on earth, then let the Ashara of Forgiveness flow through your words, your tone, and your decisions. Do not wait for your spouse to take the first step. Be the one who chooses maturity. Be the one who says, "We both deserve a fresh start." Be the one who understands that love grows strongest, not in the absence of mistakes, but in the presence of mercy. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between your marriage and healing is one courageous decision to forgive fully, not partially, and to do it for Allah before you do it for anyone else. There is a moment in every marriage when love is tested, not by dramatic betrayal or public scandal, but by ordinary human weakness. It may be a harsh word spoken in exhaustion, a broken promise made under pressure, a misunderstanding that slowly turned into emotional distance. These moments seem small at first, but when left unforgiven, they grow roots. And once resentment grows roots, it begins to wrap itself around everything beautiful that once existed between you. The second Ashara of Ramadan arrives like a divine interruption to that slow decay. These are not just days of personal repentance. They are days when Allah invites you to reflect His mercy in your relationships. Maghfirah is not meant to stay between your forehead and the prayer mat. It is meant to travel from your sada into your speech, your reactions, your marriage. Many couples believe time heals wounds, but time alone does nothing if pride is still alive. You can share the same house for years and still carry silent anger from the past. You can eat at the same table, sleep in the same bed, and yet feel emotionally miles apart. The distance is not always caused by a lack of love. Often, it is caused by a lack of forgiveness. Forgiveness is what resets emotional safety. Without it, both spouses begin to guard themselves. Conversations become careful. Affection becomes calculated. Vulnerability disappears. Instead of being partners, You become negotiators protecting your own interests. And when marriage becomes a battlefield of ego instead of a sanctuary of mercy, peace slowly fades. Ramadan teaches you hunger so you can understand need. It teaches you thirst so you can understand dependency. In the same way, these days of Maghfirah teach you that you are constantly in need of Allah's forgiveness. And when you deeply understand your need for mercy, it becomes harder to deny mercy to someone else. Consider how Allah forgives. He does not forgive you while constantly reminding you of what you did. He does not forgive you and then expose your flaws to humiliate you. He forgives and conceals. He forgives and gives new opportunities. He forgives and continues to provide for you as if you never sinned. That is divine generosity. Now ask yourself honestly, when you forgive your spouse, do you forgive like that? Or do you forgive but keep a record? Do you forgive but bring it up in the next disagreement? Do you forgive but silently change the way you treat them? That is not full forgiveness. That is delayed punishment. True forgiveness in marriage means closing the chapter completely for the sake of Allah. It means deciding that you will not weaponize the past again. It means you will not use yesterday's mistake to win tomorrow's argument. It means you trust that Allah sees the injustice, the pain, the tears, and that He is the ultimate judge. Sometimes we cling to resentment because we think it protects us from future harm. We tell ourselves, if I don't forget, I won't be fooled again. But living in constant suspicion poisons intimacy. A marriage cannot flourish where there is no emotional trust, and emotional trust cannot grow where old wounds are constantly reopened. Forgiveness also requires introspection. Often when we are hurt, we see ourselves only as victims, but in reality most marital conflicts involve two imperfect perspectives colliding. You may not be equally responsible for the original mistake, but you may be responsible for how long the conflict lasted. You may be responsible for the cold silence that followed. You may be responsible for the sarcastic tone that deepened the wound. Forgiveness includes acknowledging your part in the cycle and choosing to break it. Imagine this powerful scenario. It is Laylatul Qadr. You stand in prayer asking Allah to erase years of sins. You are begging for a clean heart, a new beginning, a record free from shame. Now imagine that at that very moment, your spouse is sleeping with a heart still wounded by something you refuse to let go of. How can you ask Allah for a new chapter while denying one to the person closest to you? Marriage is not only companionship in dunya, it is a partnership toward akhirah. Every argument handled with mercy becomes a sadaqah. Every act of forgiveness becomes an investment in your scale of deeds. Every time you swallow pride for the sake of Allah, you are elevating your status in ways you may never see immediately. And here is something profound. Forgiveness often transforms the one who committed the mistake. When a spouse expects anger but receives mercy instead, something shifts inside them. Gratitude grows, regret deepens. Change becomes more sincere. Harshness often creates defensiveness, but mercy inspires improvement. This does not mean tolerating abuse or injustice. Islam never commands you to remain in harm. But most marriages are not destroyed by major betrayal. They are weakened by repeated small resentments that were never properly resolved. If the issue is minor and the pattern is not oppressive, then forgiveness is strength, not surrender. During this second Ashara, make a private intention. Decide that your home will reflect the mercy you are asking from Allah. Decide that your tone will soften. Decide that when old memories try to resurface, you will remind yourself that Allah has hidden far worse about you. Decide that peace in your marriage is worth more than temporary satisfaction in proving you were right. Your spouse is not your rival. They are your amana. They are the one who sees you at your weakest, your most tired, your most unfiltered. If forgiveness does not exist in that space, then where will it exist? One sincere conversation during these days can change the entire direction of your marriage. Sit together after iftar. Speak honestly but gently. Say, "We are both flawed. Let's use this ashara to forgive each other completely." Those words carry more power than you realize. They can dismantle years of distance in a single moment of humility. Perhaps the reason Allah brought you into these days of Maghfirah while you are still married is because He wants to repair something. Perhaps He is waiting for you to take the first step. Perhaps the forgiveness you extend to your spouse will be the very reason He extends greater forgiveness to you. In the end, forgiveness in marriage is not just about saving love, it is about saving hearts. It is about protecting the Sakinah Allah intended for your home. It is about walking toward Jannah together without dragging chains of resentment behind you. The second Ashara is passing quickly. Do not let it leave while pride still occupies space in your heart. Choose mercy. Choose humility. Choose to forgive not because your spouse deserves perfection, but because you are both servants of a Lord who forgives beyond imagination. And sometimes, the miracle you are praying for in sujood is waiting for you to release what you have been holding on to for years. There is a powerful reality most couples do not realize until years have passed. Love alone does not sustain a marriage. Attraction fades and returns. Excitement rises and settles. Circumstances change. Finances fluctuate. Health shifts. Personalities evolve. But what truly determines whether a marriage survives the storms of life is not the intensity of love, it is the depth of mercy. And mercy is born from forgiveness. The second Ashara of Ramadan is not coincidental in its timing. After 10 days of spiritual awakening and heightened awareness, Allah opens the doors of Maghfirah wide. It is as if He is saying, "You have tasted closeness. Now cleanse your heart completely." And perhaps the first place that cleansing is meant to happen is not in public worship, but in private relationships. Marriage exposes your flaws more than any other relationship. Friends see your curated personality. Colleagues see your professional image. Even extended family sees a filtered version of you. But your spouse sees everything. Your impatience, your insecurity, your mood swings, your silent disappointments, your unspoken expectations, and you see theirs. This constant exposure can either build deep compassion or deep resentment. The deciding factor is forgiveness. When forgiveness is absent, every flaw feels magnified. You begin to define your spouse by their worst moments. "You're always like this. You never change. This is just who you are." These labels slowly replace the admiration that once existed. And once admiration fades, respect weakens. When respect weakens, emotional safety disappears. But when forgiveness becomes a habit, something remarkable happens. Instead of seeing your spouse as the sum of their mistakes, you begin to see them as a human being in progress. You recognize that just as Allah is still shaping you, He is still shaping them. You begin to approach conflicts not as battles to win, but as opportunities to understand. Many marriages suffer not because of major sins, but because of accumulated minor grievances. A sarcastic comment here, a forgotten responsibility there, a moment of insensitivity during stress. None of these alone may seem catastrophic, but when stored without forgiveness, they become emotional baggage, and over time, that baggage becomes too heavy for the relationship to carry. Ramadan interrupts this pattern. Fasting humbles you. Hunger reminds you that you are dependent. Thirst reminds you that you are weak, and weakness, when acknowledged, softens pride. The ego that once demanded constant validation begins to quiet down. In that quietness, forgiveness becomes possible. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you rehearse your spouse's mistakes in your mind? How often do you narrate the story, in a way that makes you the innocent one and them the villain. The human mind is skilled at self-justification, but Ramadan calls you to radical honesty. It calls you to examine not only what they did, but how you responded. It calls you to reflect on whether your reaction prolonged the pain more than the original mistake. Forgiveness in marriage is not amnesia. It does not mean pretending the pain never existed. It means deciding that the pain will not control the future. It means saying, I choose our unity over my resentment. It means refusing to weaponize past mistakes in future disagreements. It means protecting your spouse's dignity even when you are hurt. Consider how Allah forgives. He not only erases sins but transforms them into good deeds when repentance is sincere. This is divine generosity beyond comprehension. Now imagine reflecting even a fraction of that generosity in your marriage. Imagine responding to an apology with warmth instead of suspicion. Imagine seeing your spouse's effort to improve and encouraging it instead of doubting it. That environment creates growth. Sometimes, one spouse waits for the other to change first. I'll forgive when they apologize properly. I'll soften when they admit they were wrong. But leadership in marriage is often about initiating goodness without conditions. The Prophet ﷺ was exemplified mercy in his home. Gentleness was his strength, not his weakness. He did not see compassion as surrender. He saw it as character. You may fear that forgiving repeatedly will make you look weak, but strength in Islam is not measured by dominance. It is measured by self-control, controlling your anger, swallowing your pride, lowering your voice. These are acts of strength that require far more discipline than shouting or withdrawing. And here is a truth that many ignore: resentment affects your spirituality. When your heart is heavy with unresolved anger, your ibadah feels heavier. You stand in prayer but struggle to concentrate. You recite Quran but feel distracted. You make dua but sense a barrier. That barrier may not be a major sin. It may be an unforgiven heart. During these sacred days of Maghfirah, imagine entering the last 10 nights completely free of bitterness. Imagine making tahajjud side by side with your spouse, not just physically near each other but emotionally aligned. Imagine breaking your fast together with genuine gratitude instead of silent tension. This peace is not unrealistic. It is possible, but it requires a decision. Forgiveness also protects future generations. Children raised in homes where grudges dominate learn defensiveness instead of empathy. They observe cold silence and interpret it as normal. But children who witness sincere apologies and visible forgiveness learn humility. They learn that mistakes do not end relationships. They learn that mercy is stronger than ego. The second Ashara is a reset for your marriage narrative. Instead of replaying the worst chapters, write a new one. Sit together intentionally. Speak about the pain calmly. Acknowledge hurt without accusation. Say, I know we've both made mistakes. I don't want to carry them anymore. That conversation alone can dissolve walls built over years. Forgiveness does not guarantee that conflicts will never happen again. It guarantees that conflicts will not permanently define you. It transforms marriage from a competition into a collaboration. It shifts the mindset from me versus you to us versus the problem. Remember this deeply: the marriage that survives is not the one without mistakes. It is the one where both partners refuse to let mistakes become permanent scars. It is the one where humility outweighs pride. It is the one where Maghfirah is practiced daily, not only requested in dua. Perhaps the very thing blocking barakah in your home is not financial strain or external pressure, but internal resentment. Perhaps the tranquility you seek is waiting on the other side of one sincere act of forgiveness. Perhaps Allah is watching to see whether you will reflect His mercy in the place that matters most. The second Ashara is passing. The nights are moving quickly. Soon these opportunities will be memories. Do not let them slip away while stubbornness occupies your heart. Release what you have been holding on to, not because it did not hurt, not because it did not matter, but because your marriage, your peace, and your akira matter more. When forgiveness becomes your lifestyle, your home becomes lighter, conversations become softer, laughter returns, trust rebuilds, and slowly, almost quietly, the love you thought was fading begins to bloom again, not as naive romance, but as mature, resilient, merciful companionship. And that is the kind of marriage that not only survives this world, but walks together toward Jannah. There are moments in life that do not look dramatic on the outside, but carry eternal weight in the unseen. A quiet apology whispered after Isha, a tear that falls in private, a decision made in the heart that no one else hears. The second Ashara of Ramadan is filled with such moments. These are the days when Allah's forgiveness descends in abundance, when hearts are more sensitive, when souls are more aware of their fragility. And sometimes the greatest transformation in a marriage begins not with a grand gesture, but with one silent choice: I will forgive for the sake of Allah. Marriage is not sustained by feelings alone. Feelings fluctuate. There are days of deep affection and days of emotional exhaustion. There are seasons of laughter and seasons of stress. Children arrive. Responsibilities increase. Health challenges emerge. Financial pressures test patience. Over time, what once felt effortless requires intentional effort, and in that effort, forgiveness becomes the lifeline. Without forgiveness, small wounds accumulate. A dismissive tone during a stressful evening, a forgotten promise, a moment of neglect. None of these alone may seem severe, but when layered without mercy, they create emotional distance. The warmth that once filled the home slowly cools, conversations become transactional, intimacy becomes cautious, and both spouses begin to feel unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. But when forgiveness is present, the atmosphere shifts. Mistakes are acknowledged, but not weaponized. Apologies are accepted without endless interrogation. Growth is encouraged instead of doubted. In such an environment, love matures. It becomes less about constant romance and more about consistent compassion. The second Ashara teaches you something profound. You are in constant need of forgiveness. Every day, knowingly and unknowingly, you fall short. You speak when silence would have been better. You react when patience would have been wiser. You assume when clarification would have prevented misunderstanding. And yet you raise your hands and say, Ya Allah, forgive me, with full hope that He will. If you expect such hope from your Lord, how can you deny hope to your spouse? Sometimes the hardest part of forgiveness is not releasing anger, it is releasing control. Holding on to a mistake gives you a sense of superiority. It allows you to feel morally elevated. It gives you leverage in future disagreements. But Ramadan dismantles this illusion. Fasting humbles you. It reminds you that you are not superior. You are dependent. You are imperfect. You are in need of mercy just as much as the person you are upset with. When you forgive sincerely, something spiritual happens. Your heart becomes lighter. The tension that once lived in your chest softens. Your tone changes. Your body language relaxes, and your spouse feels it. Humans are deeply sensitive to emotional energy. A forgiven heart communicates safety. A resentful heart communicates threat. If your spouse constantly feels judged or reminded of past failures, they will withdraw. But if they feel accepted despite their imperfections, they will draw closer. Forgiveness does not mean ignoring patterns of harm or accepting injustice. Islam never promotes silence in the face of oppression, but many marital conflicts are not oppression. They are immaturity, miscommunication, stress, and unmet expectations. In these cases, forgiveness becomes the bridge back to connection. Reflect on this. What kind of home do you want to build? A home where both partners keep score, or a home where both partners protect each other's dignity? Keeping score turns marriage into a courtroom. Protecting dignity turns marriage into a sanctuary. During these sacred nights, imagine standing before Allah and being asked about how you treated the one closest to you. Imagine being asked not only about your prayers and fasting, but about your tone, your patience, your willingness to forgive. Marriage is an amana. It is not simply companionship, it is accountability. Perhaps the argument you are holding on to today will seem insignificant when you stand on the day of judgment. Perhaps the pride you defended so fiercely will feel foolish when compared to the reward you could have earned by forgiving. Sometimes, the difference between regret and relief in the Akhirah is a decision made in dunya to let go. There is also immense barakah in initiating reconciliation. When one spouse humbles themselves and says, "I don't want distance between us anymore," it opens a door, it softens the other heart. It interrupts cycles of silence and defensiveness. Even if the response is not immediate, seeds are planted, and seeds planted in sincerity during Ramadan often grow in unexpected ways. Forgiveness also models emotional maturity. If you have children, they are watching. They learn how to handle conflict by observing you. When they see you apologize, they learn humility. When they see you forgive, they learn mercy. When they see you prioritize peace over ego, they internalize that love is not about dominance, but about understanding. And consider the spiritual reward. What if forgiving your spouse becomes the reason Allah forgives you in a moment when you desperately need it? What if the mercy you extend in your home becomes the mercy that surrounds you in your grave? These are not small matters. They are investments in eternity. The night of decree is approaching. Angels will descend. Decrees will be written. Hearts will tremble in dua. Do not let those nights arrive while your heart is still heavy with resentment. Clean it now. Release it now. Speak gently now. Because perhaps the night you forgive will be the night Allah decrees tranquility for your home. Marriage is not about finding a flawless person. It is about walking beside another flawed human being and choosing mercy repeatedly. It is about saying, we will both fail at times, but we will not let failure define us. It is about understanding that love deepens not when there are no mistakes, but when there is consistent forgiveness. If you truly want your marriage to reflect Jannah, then fill it with what fills Jannah: peace, mercy, and forgiveness. Let the second Ashara transform not only your relationship with Allah, but your relationship with the one He chose for you. Tonight after Isha, sit quietly, reflect on what you are holding on to. Ask yourself whether it is worth the distance it has created. Then make a sincere intention. Ya Allah, as you forgive me, help me forgive my spouse, and follow that dua with action. Because sometimes the miracle you are waiting for in your marriage is not another person changing, it is your heart softening. And when a heart softens for the sake of Allah, everything begins to change. There is a level of forgiveness that most people never reach because it requires something rare: surrender. Not surrender to injustice, not surrender to mistreatment, but surrender of ego. Surrender of the need to always be right. Surrender of the desire to remind, to replay, to reopen. And this level of forgiveness is exactly what the second Ashara of Ramadan is preparing your heart for. You have already fasted for days. Your body has weakened, but your awareness has strengthened. You have felt hunger and thirst and realized how fragile you truly are. You have stood in prayer and felt your own shortcomings. You have whispered istighfar, knowing that if Allah did not forgive you, you would be lost. Now ask yourself honestly, if you are this dependent on divine mercy, how can you deny human mercy to the one who shares your life? Marriage is not tested in moments of romance. It is tested in moments of disappointment. It is easy to love when everything is smooth. It is easy to speak gently when you feel appreciated. But when expectations are unmet, when stress clouds judgment, when words are spoken without thinking, that is where character reveals itself. That is where forgiveness either saves the bond or pride slowly breaks it. Many couples do not separate physically, they separate emotionally. They continue living together, fulfilling responsibilities, smiling in front of others, but internally, walls have been built. Conversations become surface level, laughter becomes rare, touch becomes routine instead of affectionate. And the tragedy is that neither of them truly wants distance. They simply do not know how to dismantle the resentment that created it. Forgiveness is the tool that breaks those walls, but real forgiveness requires a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did they hurt me?" begin asking, "What pain or weakness led them to act this way?" This does not excuse wrongdoing, but it humanizes it. When you see your spouse as a flawed servant of Allah rather than an opponent, your heart softens. Compassion enters where anger once dominated. There are times when your spouse's mistake wounded you deeply. Words can cut. Neglect can ache. Disappointment can linger. Forgiving does not mean pretending it did not hurt. It means acknowledging the hurt while refusing to let it define the entire relationship. It means saying, "This moment was painful, but it will not become the story of our marriage." Ramadan magnifies intentions. An ordinary act becomes extraordinary when done sincerely for Allah. When you forgive purely to protect your marriage for His sake, that forgiveness carries immense reward. You are not forgiving because the apology was perfect. You are not forgiving because the mistake was small. You are forgiving because you want Allah to be pleased with you. And when Allah is pleased with something, He places barakah in it. Barakah in communication. Barakah in patience. Barakah in affection. Barakah in rizqu. Barakah in your children's hearts. Perhaps the tension in your home is not because love is gone, but because mercy has been restricted. Love struggles to breathe where grudges dominate. But once forgiveness enters, love begins to expand again. Consider how Shaitan works outside Ramadan. He whispers suspicions. He magnifies flaws. He fuels pride. During Ramadan, his influence is weakened, so if resentment continues, it is not from external whispers, it is from internal stubbornness. This realization is powerful. It means you have control. You can choose differently. One of the most transformative actions in marriage is to forgive without announcement. To forgive quietly in your heart before your spouse even knows you have released the pain. To stop mentioning it. To stop reacting from it. To stop allowing it to influence your tone. That silent decision changes your energy, and energy shifts relationships. Sometimes your spouse may not even fully understand how much they hurt you. Sometimes they may not articulate apology perfectly. Humans are not always skilled in emotional expression, but if you wait for flawless closure before forgiving, you may wait forever. Forgiveness is not dependent on their eloquence. It is dependent on your sincerity. Reflect on the day of judgment. There will be people who arrive with mountains of worship but are stopped because of unresolved rights between them and others. And there will be people whose scales are heavy because they chose mercy over retaliation. Imagine standing before Allah and discovering that every time you forgave your spouse, He elevated your rank. Marriage is not random. Allah chose this person for you with wisdom beyond your understanding. Perhaps their flaws are designed to refine your patience. Perhaps their weaknesses are meant to strengthen your compassion. Perhaps their mistakes are the means through which your forgiveness earns you Jannah. There is also something deeply healing about initiating reconciliation. To say, "I don't want distance between us anymore." To sit after Taraweeh and speak with humility. To admit, I may have carried resentment longer than I should have. These words are powerful. They melt pride. They create safety. They reopen doors that felt permanently shut. Forgiveness also requires consistency. It is not a one-time emotional decision. It is a commitment to stop revisiting the wound. It is choosing not to bring it up in future arguments. It is resisting the urge to say, "You always do this," when new issues arise. It is allowing your spouse to grow without constantly reminding them of who they used to be. Growth thrives in mercy. Change blossoms in encouragement. A spouse who feels perpetually judged becomes defensive. A spouse who feels forgiven becomes motivated. And here is a profound reality. When you forgive sincerely, you heal yourself. Resentment keeps your nervous system tense. It keeps your mind replaying scenes. It drains emotional energy. When you release it, your body relaxes, your thoughts calm, your heart becomes lighter. You sleep better, you worship better, you live better. The second Ashara is not only about wiping your sins, it is about refining your character. It is about aligning your heart with divine attributes. Allah loves those who pardon others. He loves those who restrain anger. He loves those who seek reconciliation. Imagine earning that love, not through public charity or visible acts, but through private mercy in your own home. If your marriage feels fragile, begin with forgiveness. If it feels distant, begin with forgiveness. If it feels stagnant, begin with forgiveness. Do not underestimate the power of one softened heart. Tonight, before you sleep, make a dua that shakes your pride. Ya Allah, remove every trace of resentment from my heart toward my spouse. Replace it with understanding. Replace it with patience. Replace it with love that is sincere and steady. Then act on that dua. Speak gently tomorrow. Respond calmly next time. Choose silence instead of sarcasm. Offer appreciation instead of criticism. Small shifts create massive change over time. You may not see immediate transformation, but when forgiveness is rooted in sincerity, Allah nurtures its impact in ways unseen. Walls crumble, warmth returns, conversations deepen, trust rebuilds. And one day you may look back and realize that the turning point in your marriage was not a dramatic event. It was a Ramadan night, when you decided to forgive fully for the sake of Allah. That night, your destiny shifted. And perhaps, without even realizing it, you stepped closer to Jannah together. The second Ashara will not stay. These nights will pass. The tears will dry. The hunger will end. Ramadan will slowly say goodbye. But the decision you make inside these days can echo for years. Maybe your marriage does not need another argument. Maybe it does not need another lecture. Maybe it does not even need perfection. Maybe it just needs mercy. You have asked Allah again and again, Ya Allah, forgive me. Now let your home hear those same words. Look at your spouse tonight, not as the one who disappointed you, but as the one Allah chose to walk beside you toward Jannah. Forgive what you can. Release what you have been carrying. Lower your voice. Soften your heart. Choose peace over pride. Because when you forgive for the sake of Allah, He replaces resentment with tranquility. He replaces tension with barakah. He replaces distance with sakina. And perhaps on the day when you stand before Him trembling, He will say, "As you forgave my servant, I forgive you." What greater success is there than that? So before this Ashara ends, save your marriage with mercy. Protect your love with forgiveness. Turn your home into a place where Maghfirah lives. May Allah remove every hidden grudge from your heart. May He fill your marriage with understanding. May He unite you in mercy in this world and reunite you in Jannah without hisab. Ameen. And tell me, from which city are you watching this Ramadan? How is your fast today?